मैं एक पवित्र आत्मा हूँ। मैं एक शुद्ध आत्मा हूँ। मैं एक पवित्र आत्मा हूँ। मैं एक शुद्ध आत्मा हूँ। मैं एक पवित्र आत्मा हूँ। मैं एक शुद्ध आत्मा हूँ। Samarpan Yoga of the Himalayas, Part 3, Day 2. One thing is certain. The enshrined Guru is the only universal medium of present time, who, even though he belongs to the past, connects the disciple to the medium of the present. Or we can say that one can reach the present form of Paramatma through the medium of the enshrined Guru. The enshrined Guru remains steady at the place of his samadhi and continues with his work. The next stage is to accept the living Satguru. This is the easiest and also the most difficult task. It is easiest because one can easily reach the medium of Paramatma because the medium is present in a living form during the disciple's lifetime. It is very difficult to accept a human being who looks like us, who acts like us, and who has ordinary interactions like us as Paramatma. This happens because for many centuries, we have believed that Paramatma means one who does not exist in the present and is only of the past. He definitely exists in the present, but it is because of this belief that we can't accept that Paramatma can exist in this present. When the world exists and we continue to breathe in the world that exists, then Paramatma's energy will also definitely be present in some medium or the other in this world. The medium through whom the universal energy thus flows will also be present, and he will be the Paramatma of present time. Actually, Paramatma is an energy which balances and runs the universe. One who surrenders to it becomes the medium for it, and the universal energy begins to flow through him. We can't take a single breath without the medium of universal energy, and every single breath we take is because of that living medium. The living medium is an ocean of compassion, and he continues with his work incessantly, whether you believe in him or not. Or we can say that the work continues to be performed through the medium of his physical body. Living Satgurus are mediums. They don't have any separate existence, and this is the reason why we obtain the vision, darshan, of some noble sage or deity or enshrined Guru through them. One generally receives visions of enshrined gurus more often as they are closer to us in time. The deities are quite far away, and it is difficult to visualize them. The living Sadguru does not have a separate identity either for himself or for his physical body. Sadgurus are pure, like empty pipes through which Paramatma keeps manifesting in the form of flowing energy. They are only mediums of Paramatma. Actually, Paramatma is the energy which manages the universe. It has never been, nor can it ever be, a physical body, because the physical body is perishable and Paramatma is eternal. So how can any physical body be Paramatma? Whoever we believe to be Paramatma will only be his medium. Therefore, no medium has ever said that I am Paramatma, as in reality, Paramatma is not human at all. The Satguru is a physical body which has got liberated despite being in a physical form, but at the same time is not a physical body. He is a physical body without self-existence in which you can visualize anyone you desire. He could become a medium of Paramatma only because he merged his existence with Paramatma. But the creation of such a living Guru is possible only after several births. It is the final state of the human species, Yoni, and the final birth of the Sadguru. He is recognized only during his final birth because he has obtained liberation by that time. Thus, to believe in the Sadguru is a higher state of the disciple's spiritual development. It is also difficult because what is visible to him is only an ordinary physical body, and he will have to look beyond the covering layer of that physical body. This is a very difficult task. Sadgurus are never spiritual teachers. Spiritual teachers are also humans who are venerated in society because of their good demeanor and thoughts. They influence others by their holiness and purity. They bind themselves within a boundary by their behavior, and it is due to this demeanor that they are venerated in society. But in reality, all these are just physical efforts to behave decorously. This is also the reason why they appear different in society. It is easy to recognize them because of this very different identity. Sadgurus are even beyond demeanor. One can't recognize Sadgurus by their good behavior, and they don't wish to influence society through it either. It has generally been observed that the behavior of Sadgurus is just the opposite. They behave in such strange ways that people keep away from them. Sometimes they are found mouthing abuses, sometimes they are seen throwing stones. They purposely create a barrier through useless covering layers so that ordinary humans can't reach them. They don't wish to meet anyone or to influence people. They are not waiting to perform any particular task. The work just gets done through them. They themselves don't perform any work, but all the work reaches completion through them. Any work that is performed is at the physical level, but they are beyond even the physical level. It has generally been observed that they don't hide their shortcomings, because to hide faults is an act at the physical level, and they are beyond the physical level. Instead, they exhibit their shortcomings more openly so that people look at their faults and run away and don't approach them. Thus, it is very difficult to ignore his faults and recognize the Sadguru. One can look beyond his faults only through a feeling of complete surrender because faults are bound to be present when the physical body exists. No human body can exist without faults. The Sadguru is also created through three things. Firstly, the pure soul which is evolving actively birth after birth. Secondly, there is a collection of the energy of good karma within him, which is present in the form of Kundalini Shakti. And thirdly, the human body which is created through the union of the mother and the father. When the mother and father create this physical body, their hereditary faults also get transferred, and these faults are called defects of the physical body. Therefore, faults are bound to be present if a soul wears a physical body. If we meet a Sadguru who is living in the physical body, we will have to look beyond his physical body to reach the Guru element. One also needs to reach a living Guru because only a living Guru can bestow a live spiritual experience. This is similar to the example that a living cow gives milk and a living mother gives birth to a child. Similarly, a spiritual experience is a living process, which is possible only through a living physical body. Secondly, the fact that the physical body is alive means that it is of the present time and that we exist in the living present time too. Just as one requires a living body to drink milk and a living cow to give the milk, similarly, a living Sadguru is needed to give the experience of Paramatma, and we should also be alive to accept the living experience. Both the giver and the receiver should be alive because the spiritual experience is a living process. The living Sadguru is Paramatma's medium of the present time. Therefore, he is close to us and one we can easily relate to him. The medium is according to the present conditions and he is ordinary. He can provide answers to current questions and can understand the current situation. He is Paramatma's medium of present time and preaches about what is suitable in the present, or we can say that Paramatma gives guidance according to the situations of present time. Paramatma is an eternal, dynamic, universal energy. It keeps changing from time to time. Its effect is felt on the Sadguru's actions too, because whatever he does is according to the needs of the present time. It happens according to what is suitable in present time. His actions can't be understood at that time as they are connected to that future, and therefore they are understood only after the passage of time. How can one recognize him during his lifetime when one can't even understand what he is saying? Therefore, only a few fortunate souls are able to recognize him and accept him during this lifetime. Man receives the boon to shape his life according to his pure wish after taking birth in the human form. Man can bring about a revolution in his life through pure desire, and he can obtain inner knowledge through it. The human form is cursed by which man can be misled through his intellect. He cannot obtain inner knowledge until he transcends his intellect. But the living guru has living and collective energies because of the vast energy of the collectivity of pure souls who have surrendered to him, or to whom he has surrendered, which is always present with him. Therefore, we can actually get connected to the living energies by connecting with the living Sadguru. The living energies are of present time, and therefore they exist according to the needs of the present time. That is why we don't even realize how happily our life passes with the flow of the living energies. The collective energy bestows us with protective armor during our lifetime. On the one hand, this protective armor never allows us to be separated, and on the other hand, it protects us miraculously at the time of any accident. The living guru is Paramatma personified. He can never harm anyone because he is creative energy, and it is always flowing in a positive direction. It can never harm anyone, and it can never think badly of anyone, because even a thought like that will be against his existence. The living Sadguru is Paramatma's medium of present time. He is not established because he is of present time, and that is why very few people believe in him. This is the reason why the intellect of humans is not ready to accept him as Paramatma, and also the reason why there are very few people who accept the living Sadguru. Thousands of people gather around him, but that is only because their attraction for his physical body. By attraction for the physical body, I mean the aura that has been created around his physical body because of his spiritual practice, sadhana. Man's inner soul is attracted towards the Sadguru when it sees the aura, but the physical body continues to reason differently due to his intellect. There is a crowd of people around their living Sadguru, but very few people believe in him. This is because he has not been established as yet, although he is the medium of the present time. However, by the time he gets established, he becomes part of the past. We can understand it thus. The living Sadguru is Paramatma's medium of present time, and Paramatma guides us through him according to the situation of the present time. But he is not established because he is a medium who is close to us in time, and therefore it is difficult to believe in him and accept him. The next stage is that you will become your own guru, and your soul will begin to guide you. This state is the best state, and also the highest and final state in the spiritual field. This state is obtained by a self-realized individual. After a person achieves this state, the external search for Paramatma ends, and he gets the vision of Paramatma inside him. Paramatma exists in every physical body in the form of a soul, but the soul is not awakened. He becomes knowledgeable about everything when it is present in an awakened form in an individual, about what one should do and what one should not do. Once this happens, he is able to take his own decisions. The individual experiences that he has attained Paramatma, self-realization, and he obtains a kind of satisfaction. His entire search and all his wanderings come to an end. The sense of satisfaction that I have attained the state of Paramatma brings about a spiritual revolution in him, and he progresses spiritually as a result. In order to obtain this state, he first needs a living guru who has already obtained that state. If a living guru bestows grace on him and he surrenders before that individual, then that state is created in him. The living Sadguru is one who first establishes his feelings of surrender in the disciple. The disciple's surrender towards the Sadguru is only his reaction to the Sadguru's action of surrender. One can obtain such a state of the soul only through the medium of a living guru. Once you receive the knowledge that Paramatma resides inside you, you will begin to obtain all the knowledge from within yourself. You will automatically receive the spiritual experience of Paramatma. The living Sadguru neither helps you experience the spiritual experience, nor is it the spiritual experience possible without the living Sadguru. This experience happens in the proximity of the living Sadguru. This is similar to the example of the flame of a lighted lamp which comes in contact with an unlit lamp and ignites it. The lighted lamp does not ignite the unlit lamp as it is steady in its place, but the unlit lamp goes near it and lights up. In this way, the soul climbs up the different steps of spiritual progress during its lifetime and continues to move forward. One day I informed my wife, all that transformation and experiences are obtained in the living Guru's proximity. I have no existence of my own. I live in society and I am spending my life like an ordinary person due to the collectivity of society. And when I lived in the caves of the Himalayas, I lived like an ascetic due to the collectivity there. I am being sent again and again by some inspiring energy because my field of work is the society. It is their wish that I should remain connected to society as they cannot come to the people to perform their work. My Gurudev always said that the lotus flower blooms only in muck, but the lotus is not the muck and no muck is present on the lotus either. Despite being in the muck, the lotus maintains its holiness, its purity and beauty, and yet is not separate from the muck. You too should reach the Sahasrara Chakra and the 1,000-petaled lotus should bloom within you. Then you will remain connected to society. Just as the lotus keeps its roots grounded in the muck, you too should hold your roots steady in the thought pollution of human society, because this is the purpose of your life. Your roots are in human society and in your domestic life. Don't ever give up those roots or you won't be able to keep your purpose alive. You will have to go into society afterwards and complete your work. Your area of work is Gujarat. You will have to go to Gujarat and perform the work. I asked my wife, "You have lived at Ahmedabad. Your entire education up to graduation has been completed at Ahmedabad. You must know the Gujarati language." She said, "I know the language, but I have not practiced it for many days now because I haven't met anyone who speaks in Gujarati. To know a language and to stay connected to that language are two different things." I said, "I have no knowledge about Gujarat, but it is bound to happen since Gurudev has said it. We should be mentally prepared for everything." I added further, "I don't have any knowledge, but you at least have some knowledge about Gujarat. That's good." Both my wife and I had been boycotted by society and by relatives after we began to follow the path of meditation. My father would say, "He is crazy and he has made his wife crazy too." But we had come closer to each other due to the same reason and had developed an inner bond due to this state of affairs. An inner relationship had developed between us because there was no one except the two of us to talk about all these things, and we used to share our experiences with each other. We used to talk for several hours, and on seeing this, the other couples would think, "What can these two be talking about for so many hours?" We were in an unsolved riddle for them. Most of our discussions were about spiritual experiences. We would take up a single topic and ponder over it. I used to narrate the tales of my travels in such detail that my wife would feel that she was traveling through the Himalayas. She enjoyed listening to such tales, and our days passed very peacefully. I used to perform most of the household chores and tried to give my wife some rest. I would finish all the housework before she returned from work so that we could talk for as long as possible. My wife too had become aware that the path her husband had chosen was a different and rare path, that he was connected to a world which was quite different and what he said couldn't be understood by ordinary people. Another reason why I performed all the housework was that when I was away from home, my poor wife had to do all the work on her own. My elder son was understanding and would help his mother. She found him to be a great support too. But this was like the proverbial straw to support a drowning man. We were contented because we had very few wants. My wife had saved money and bought a bicycle, pressure cooker, etc. through loan installments. Our children were young and therefore the household expenses were less. The children's education was free, and so we did not have such expenses either. We did not socialize much, and so there was no interaction at that level, and we had no plans for the future or any savings. The last week of the month always passed in anticipation of the first day of the next month. My wife would receive a bonus or interim allowances during festivals, and thus our life continued. Whenever I was at home, I would spend all the time with the children because they were deprived of my love when I was away from home. In all these situations, my wife was always with me, and I have always taken the important decisions of my life with her trust and support. I had decided to give up my job in Calcutta after 1.5 years of marriage. I was firmly settled in the company by the time I resigned my job. I would perform whatever task was assigned to me, and therefore my employer too did not want me to leave. One day, when I informed him about my decision, he said, "Tell me, how big an offer have you received? I will pay you more than double your salary. Tell me." I replied, "I have no such offer. I am resigning because I don't wish to work anymore. You can hold me by the ears and bring me back if you see me working elsewhere." When I said this to my employer, he realized that I was really not going to take up another job. I had become emotionally attached to him. He said, "Your decision is emotional, but always remember that the doors of my company will be always open for you whenever you feel the need for a job in your life." I thanked him, touched his feet, and left. The whole world turned against me after I took this decision, and only my wife supported me. I had not even decided what I was going to do after this decision, and in this uncertain atmosphere, my Gurudev arrived in my life, and I moved forward on this path. I didn't pay any attention to what people were thinking about me. I did whatever appealed to my soul and was happy and satisfied. Divine indications have always played an important part in my life, and all the decisions of my life have been taken as a result of those divine indications. At the time, those decisions may not have appeared proper for me, but all the decisions proved to be right later on, and afterwards, I obtained satisfaction through them. No task is proved right for one's life only by thinking and pondering over it. One has to sacrifice one's life for it. One has to commit one's whole life selflessly for that work. But it is equally true that good results always follow if we carry out the work that our soul wishes us to perform, and we obtain inner happiness which bestows great joy in our life. My wife would always say, "We reach Paramatma through the medium of our soul," and he continuously contacts and guides us through it. He also keeps on informing us about what is suitable for the future and what is not. But it is we who are not close to our souls. Therefore, we should forget about what people say, what our relatives say. Just listen to your conscience and pay attention only to that. If your conscience tells you to give up your job, then give it up. Actually, I found that the job was restricting me. I only needed financial security, and my wife gave that to me. Then I moved forward on the spiritual path in my life. Several days had passed since I returned to society, and my attention kept returning to the Himalayas again and again. I understood that it was time for me to return there. I had begun to receive several spiritual experiences. Then one day I decided to leave for the Himalayas once again. I met my wife and children and collected some necessary articles and started out on my journey. I was not sure when I would return. I reached Guwahati by train, and after traveling further by bus, I started out towards the Himalayas. I didn't know where I had to go. I had to start it out towards a void. I was just moving forward without knowing where I was going. Some unknown energies seemed to be pulling me towards them. My journey continued in search of some unknown place. I would pass village after village. I would halt at some place for a while and then move forward again. Then slowly even the villages stopped appearing, and I began to come across the rivers which had originated in the Himalayan mountains. The waters in the rivers were flowing very swiftly, but they were not very deep. Sometimes I could see settlements on the banks of those rivers. Then I would come across thick jungles in which the trees were entwined with creepers. These jungles had their own music, and one could hear even the smallest sound made by footsteps for several miles. There was a continuous humming of the music of silence, which I really loved very much. I don't know what had happened, but I couldn't stay in society for very long. Then later, the human settlement slowly decreased, and I began to reach a thoughtless state. Thought pollution is also a kind of pollution which is found in human society, and it exists much more in the cities. Therefore, one does not have any separate identity there. In society, we think like the people around us because there are so many thoughts in the atmosphere that they don't allow us to think on our own at all. But man is not aware of this thought pollution. This pollution is more dangerous than other pollutions. But I found myself free of it in the jungles. I found that I was close to myself. The music of silence, which was playing there, had its own beat and rhythm. The music played on, and I became aware of a sound inside me which was merging with the music outside. I felt very good and began to hear a sound on my Sahasrara chakra, which was similar to the sound one hears when placing one's ears to a hollow telephone pole. The sound would decrease when I walked and increase when I sat still. This was a kind of game I played, and the sound also moved along with me. I would generally walk from morning to afternoon and then stop at some place for afternoon until the next morning. It was so quiet that whenever I halted at some place, I could clearly hear the inhalation and exhalation of my breath. Man absorbs oxygen through the medium of this breathing. The oxygen is not very pure in the cities, and there are more people breathing it too. Here in the jungle, the oxygen was pure, and I seemed to be the only person breathing it. I had reached a deserted place. Snow was still visible on some of the peaks, and it would shine when the sun's rays fell on it. The snow had melted in some places. There were no tracks or no paths in this jungle. I had to make the path everywhere because no one had ventured this far in the interior region. I found it difficult to move around, and all my provisions were exhausted. I would find some lahi, herbal leaves, in the jungle and would eat them either after boiling them or even raw, depending on the situation. Sometimes I would come across fruits in some places too. Thus my journey continued. The special characteristic of the jungle here was the trees were very tall and creepers had entwined around them. As I continued to walk, I reached the peak of a very tall mountain. Dusk was approaching, and I needed to search for some shelter. I saw a large tree a little lower down on the other side of the peak, whose roots showed that it was quite old. I decided to spend the night under that tree. I don't know why, but I was attracted to that tree. There was something special about it, but although I didn't know what that was, I decided to spend the night there. I went to the tree and greeted it respectfully with full faith. Then I prayed through the tree. "O Tree King, I feel very happy on seeing you. My life has been blessed on seeing you. I am a traveler who has started out in search of the truth, and if you permit me, I would like to spend the night in your care." Then I touched the tree with both my hands and bowed before it respectfully. I felt very good, and all my tiredness disappeared after that. I collected some branches of wood under the tree, started a fire, and decided to spend the night there. Actually, the tree was safe from the wind and storms as it was on one side of the mountain peak. But there were thick bushes below it, and there was a danger of wild animals hiding in the bushes. However, despite that, I decided to stay there. There was a strong wind blowing on that night, but I was safe in the shelter of the peak. I was so tired that I didn't realize when I fell asleep. I woke up in the morning when it began to grow brighter, and I felt as if someone had woken me up. I thought to myself, who could possibly be present here? But I had truly felt it. Then I laughed at myself, thinking that I must have imagined it. Who would come here? I wandered around the place the whole day and just did not feel like moving from there. This went on for about 3 days. Every night I would go to sleep under the same tree, and every day I felt that I was woken up by some unknown energy, and I enjoyed being woken up like that. I don't know why, but it was happening. I had never seen such a nice tree in my life. It wasn't very tall, but it was very broad, and although it was growing on the slope on the other side of the mountain, it was still standing after several years. I always felt that it looked like a meditating sage. I felt that an aura-like energy had been formed around it, and I couldn't get out of it. Even if I tried to get out of it, I would wander around until evening and be back near the tree again. Finally, I made up my mind to pray to Gurudev and to meditate. I prayed to Gurudev, "Gurudev, whoever takes birth will definitely die one day. I have no attraction for this physical body. It will die one day. I'm only thinking about one subject, and that is the Guru Karya which you have entrusted to me. That mission is the only purpose of my life, and I have surrendered my whole life for it. Who will perform that work if I get stuck here? I have been trying to get out of this place for the last 3 days, but I am unable to get out of this tree's web of illusion. I feel that I have been surrounded by some unknown energies. I wish to get out from here and convey the divine gift of inner experience which you have given me. I wish to convey it to each and every soul which desires to absorb it. If all this has to happen in this life itself, let it happen. But if it has to happen in my next life, it doesn't matter. Let whatever happens here be according to your wish. If you wish to keep me here, please do so, and if you wish that I perform Guru Karya in this birth, then get me out of here. I leave everything to you. I became quiet after saying this and realized later on that I was in a deep meditation. I suddenly began to find the place full of consciousness. Actually, the situation around me was still the same, but I was looking at it positively. I feel that we actually get connected to our Guru through meditation. The Guru always lives with a positive collective energy. We get connected through the positive energies after connecting with the Guru, and then we too become positive. Once we become positive, our whole point of view changes and the world appears to be peaceful and positive too. This is the experience I obtained after meditating. The place was so beautiful that I could see the range of the Himalayan peaks on the opposite side when I sat on the tree. It was a very pleasant scene. I had never looked in that direction at all. I felt that this place was very beautiful. I felt that nature had created this place with her own hands. I had placed some logs slantwise under the tree and made a small shelter for myself, and I slept there during the night. When I woke up in the morning, I decided to clean the place. There was a slope on the opposite side behind the tree where I had made the shelter. There were several bushes on the slope, and as I began to clear them, my attention was suddenly drawn to a cave which was behind the bushes. Afterwards, I looked into the cave and saw that it was quite large. There was a possibility of some animals living in the cave, and with this thought, I began looking around for signs of prints of their paws. But there was no such signs. Then I kept a watch on the cave for 3 days to see whether someone was entering or leaving it. But during those 3 days, I didn't see any animal come out or going, and this increased my curiosity. On the next day, I decided to enter the cave. Jai Baba Swami, Jai Atmeshwar.